Hello, everyone. I'm Pat. Welcome to Pat's Movie Mania Volume 7. We're actually re-recording this because the last two we didn't have any audio due to technical glitches. So we're redoing them with the audio this time, hopefully. So I'm sure you all missed me, and we're doing Volume 8, Number 7 now, and we're going to review a couple movies. Then we'll get to our top 10 lists and our director profile later in the show. So first movie we're going to review today is a 2021 release, and it was a good movie, and it was called The Eyes of Tammy Faye. And this was about a biography about Tammy Faye Baker, who we all know was involved with her husband in a religious scandal and that kind of thing. And those of us who are old enough remember when it happened. And you know that if you've been watching my podcast at all, which so many of you are, I love historical dramas and true stories. Those are my favorite kinds of movies if I had to pick a genre. So Tammy Faye Baker is played by Jessica Chastain, and she won a well-deserved Academy Award for Best Actor in this movie, and she was really, really good in it. You didn't even know it was her. She did her own singing. She basically was the gist of the movie, even though there were great roles for Andrew Garfield as her husband, Jim Baker. He was really, really good. But he was really overlooked by her in this movie. And Vincent D'Onofrio did a great turn as Jerry Falwell. You had Cherry Jones in it. This was directed by Michael Showalter, who's more known for quirky comedies, but he did a true story kind of movie here, and it worked well. He did a good job. If you're familiar with the story, you're going to enjoy it even more. If you're not, you'll learn about it and still enjoy it. The Eyes of Tammy Faye, only available on rental. I saw it at the theater, so which was still my favorite way to watch a movie, and it was very good. I highly recommend it. The Eyes of Tammy Faye. And that brings us to our older movie, and this is a 1993 release from one of my favorite directors, Richard Linklater, called Dazed and Confused. Now, I'm sure I'm partial to this movie because it took place, it was about the graduating class of 1976, of which I was a member, and again, movies that take a certain era and try to recreate them very, very conscious how they do. And they got this era nailed perfectly. I lived through it, so I know just about, better than anybody that this was 1976 and this is how it was. Even though it took place in Texas, the music, the dress, the styles, the language, the phrases were all spot on. And directed by a kid who probably was barely even born in 1976. It's really impressive. A lot of good stars to be were in this, and stars that already were. You had Parker Posey, you had Jason London, Roy Cochran, who played the stoner. It had to be a stoner in the movie, of course. Joey Lauren Adams, Mila Jovovich, early role for Ben Affleck and Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey did his all right, all right, all right thing first in this movie, and he kind of stole the movie, especially the second half. It's about graduating class of 1976 tormenting the freshman class that's coming in, and they're hazing them and paddling them and making them do all this stuff, which is what you went through in high school. And like I say, the movie opens up with Slow Ride, and that it just got me right there because that was if you didn't have Slow Ride on your 8-track in 1976, you were nobody. So the music was amazing. From what I understand, they spent 1/3 of their budget on movie rights, securing movie rights for this movie because they got all the music down pat. Um, there's a lot of great scenes in this, things that if you live through the era, are more relevant to you, sure, but they're really good. Really got the time and place down perfectly. There's a Kiss reference, the band Kiss. There's a lot of stars in small roles. Renee Zellweger, you have to look really fast for her. She's in it just for a second, of course, before she was famous. Uh, just a lot of good stuff. Very nostalgic. If you're over 60, you're going to really enjoy this movie. Dazed and Confused, again, only available for rental. Check it out if you can. I have it on DVD, so I can't lend it to you because I don't know who you are, but you know how you can find it on Vudu or Fandango at home. So those, it also was filmed on location in Texas, which led to its credibility. Also, I forgot to mention that fact. Again, directed by Richard Linklater, went on to do Boyhood and other good stuff. One of my favorite young directors. Probably not so young anymore, but you know. Anyhow, that brings us to our top 10 list for this year. This year is 1984. So if we go from the bottoms up, most of these movies I saw at the theater, not all of them. This is when, rentals start to get real big, so there's a lot of rentals on these. But our number 10 movie of 1984 is A Soldier Story. This is a story of a black black boot camp in World War II, preparing for war. And Howard Rollins, there's a murder at the beginning, and we have to figure out who caused it. And Howard Rollins is brought in as a attorney to find out who killed who, and I won't say who dies, but you know how that is. Can't give away the ending. But a lot of great black stars. Early role for Denzel Washington. Adolph Caesar plays the sergeant. He was nominated for an Oscar. There's just a who's who of black actors from that era. A couple of white ones too. Wings Hauser, Dennis Lipscomb. They all do a really good job. It's a good murder mystery. It's another time and place movie. It took place, I'm going to say, early 40s, before they were getting ready to get shipped out. And very interesting movie. Howard Rollins sadly passed away a few years later from AIDS, but he did a really good job in the lead here. Number 9 is another one of those John Hughes comedies, 16 Candles. Another Brat Pack movie. You had Anthony Michael Hall. You had Molly Ringwald. Molly Ringwald is basically the star, and the age-old story of her playing the shy girl in high school who likes the boy but who doesn't know she exists. Anthony Michael Hall kind of steals the show as a would-be hustler. He plays the cool dude who's not really cool, and his name's Farmer Jim, I think, or Farmer Jack, I don't know, but Farmer something, and he kind of steals the show. A lot of good actors in this. Molly Ringwald, of course, Paul Dooley, um, Max Showalter. It goes on and on. Again, if you're familiar with John Hughes' work, his writing, his directing, it's usually pretty fail-safe in these kind of movies. And it's always enjoyable, even if it is kind of the same in each movie, but that's what he does, or what he did. He's since left us also. But if you like John Hughes, you're going to like this movie. Good teen movie for kids to see how it was for some of us, our older kids back in 1984. Not me, I was old by then. So that brings us to number 8. This is a movie I waited with bated breath for, and I have to say I was a little disappointed, although it does still make my top 10 list because it's still a good movie. And that is The Natural with Robert Redford, where he plays Roy Hobbs, the kind of washed up baseball player who comes back and has a great season for the New York Knights. Redford is great in the role. I don't have a problem with that. I think it didn't stay as true to the book as it should have, but camera work was amazing. I don't know who the DP was on this one either, but he did a great job. Great cast. Barbara Hershey, Glenn Close, Wilford Brimley, Darren McGavin. It just goes on and on. Even Robert Duvall, I forgot him. But Robert Redford is the show, and again, he plays a washed-up baseball player who comes to a team that's in last place and kind of revives them all. And even though the manager doesn't like him at first, once he sees how he can hit, all of a sudden he likes him. So if you like baseball movies, it's good. There's some silliness in it. It may have been a bit over long, but still a good watch. If you can check out The Natural, available only on rental, check it out. And I also forgot to tell you that The Soldier Story is available on Tubi, the free service, if you want to check it out. Which brings us to number 7. That is a sci-fi movie from John Carpenter called Starman. It stars Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen. Jeff Bridges plays an alien who comes to Earth and takes the form of Karen Allen's dead husband, and she has to get him back. Of course, like most alien movies, he wants to get back home, and she has to maneuver him through the basic scientists and government people who want to do other things to him. And he comes to learn about the human race. She comes to learn about his race, and it's a very romantic story also. But Jeff Bridges does a wonderful job. I believe this was his first Oscar nomination for Best Actor, and he did a great job. He had to act in a certain way, with his movements and his facial tics and everything else, because he wasn't playing the person that he was. He was playing an alien inside that person's body, and he did a wonderful job. And very, very good ending. Again, of course, I'm not going to give away the ending, but you'll like it. Starman, that is available on Tubi and Roku right now, both free services. So check it out. Which brings us to number 6. And this is one of my favorite comedies. These are the kind of comedies a lot of critics just poo-poo. They say they're, sophomoric, idiot. My feeling is if they're funny and they make you laugh, then they're a good comedy. And this is Revenge of the Nerds, which a lot of us can relate to. And the story about two nerds played by Robert Carradine and Anthony Edwards going to college, and they don't realize the outcasts they're going to become. And they, of course, take on the Omegas, who are mostly the football players, and how this is going to turn out. But there's a lot of funny stuff in it. Besides Robert Carradine and Anthony Edwards, we have Curtis Armstrong, who plays a character named Booger, and we all know what that's going to be about. And Donald Gibb, who just passed away, plays Ogre. Ted McGinley plays the head Omega, the football player. And just a lot of funny stuff. A lot of good gags. John Goodman has a small role as the football coach. And the ending is very funny, especially with what happens with the band, which I won't tell you, but you'll see what happens with the band, the high school band. Revenge of the Nerds, that is only available on rental, so check it out if you can. Brings us number 5, one of my favorite lesser-known movies, The Pope of Greenwich Village. It's hard to say what this movie's about. It's basically two small-time hustlers played by Mickey Rourke and Eric Roberts who try to make a big robbery from the mob boss in Greenwich Village, who's played by Burt Young. Eric Roberts is the perpetual screw-up. Mickey Rourke has more of a head on his shoulders, but together they don't make a great team of burglars. The New York locations are great. The filming is great. The photography is great. And the story, like I said, it's just a basic story. Daryl Hannah plays Mickey Rourke's girlfriend, and they want to open up a restaurant, so they rob this mob boss of money, and it doesn't go so well. And things happen that Eric Roberts doesn't like too much, but good ending, very good ending. There's smaller roles played by Tony Musante and Geraldine Page, who does a wonderful job as the crooked cop's mother. So this is a really good New York movie. If you're a big New York fan, it's got all the elements in it. This is also available on Pluto and Prime, so it is out there. Pope of Greenwich Village, check it out. And number 4, this is a third or fourth remake of the Mutiny on the Bounty story, simply called The Bounty. And this stars Anthony Hopkins and Mel Gibson. Anthony Hopkins is Captain Bligh. Mel Gibson is Fletcher Christian. And I can't say enough about this. I love the original with Charles Laughton. I saw them all, but I think I still say Anthony Hopkins is a great Bligh. Whether he's as good as Charles Laughton in the original, I don't know. But he's good as Bligh. I couldn't have picked a better contemporary actor to play him. He had him down pat. And Mel Gibson does a good job as Fletcher Christian also. The scenes when they get to the island with the natives are great. The scenes on the ship are wonderful. Daniel Day-Lewis has a really good role as Captain Bligh's first mate and loyalist. Liam Neeson has a small part, but you all know the story of the crazy captain and the mutiny It occurs just supposedly a true story. It took place in England, or on the high seas, an English ship, and I really enjoyed it. I truly did. This is available on Tubi and MGM. Um, of all the bounty movies, I have this a close second to the original with Charles Lawton, if not even better. Very good movie, The Bounty. So if you see it, watch it. Bring us to number 3, I believe. This is a movie that won Best Picture in 1984. That's Amadeus, story of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Uh, Wonderful. Oh, if you're into classical music, you'll love it. If you're not into classical music, you will be after you see this, which happened to a lot of us, a lot of people around the country. This movie did more for classical music than any movie I know, at least in the last 40 years. Story of Salieri, composer Salieri, who's very, very jealous of the talented Mozart. F. Murray Abraham plays Salieri. He won Best Actor in this. Thomas Holst plays Mozart. I think he was a bit overlooked because of his reputation as a silly actor, but he did a great job in this. The music, though, is the show, especially the ending where Mozart's composing his own funeral march to Salieri, and it's a bit long, but doesn't bore you. You will like it if you like classical music. If you don't, I suggest you watch it, and you'll become a classical music fan. Again, Amadeus, only available online. Now, that brings us to number 2, and number 2 is The Terminator, which to me is the end-all be-all of sci-fi action movies. By now you all know the story with the many sequels that this has had, the TV shows that they've made, where time travel thing. Michael Biehn comes back from the future to present day to find his mother and keep her alive because Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's the bad guy, is coming back in the future to kill her so that he is never born, or his son is never born. And we can take that for what it's worth. It's a science fiction movie. It's not supposed to be realistic. But everybody does a good job. Linda Hamilton plays Sarah Connor, who's become an icon in sci-fi now. And Michael Biehn's good in this. The story is it takes a lot of turns. There's a lot of action in it if you're into that kind of thing. Good ending. And, it's just, the only thing I find interesting is that in the later movies, they made Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator character more of the hero, whereas in this, he was the bad villain. And, I wish they would have kept him like that, but it wasn't to be. So he became a good guy in the subsequent Terminator movies. Which brings us to number 1. By the way, Terminator is also available on Max, HBO Max, and Disney, so it's definitely out there. Directed by James Cameron, one of his early movies before he got real famous with Titanic and the Avatar stuff. So, good show, Which brings us to number 1. What I consider, along with The Life of Brian, one of the best comedies of all time. That's called This Is Spinal Tap. This is directed by the late Rob Reiner. He does it in documentary style. It's about a fictional rock band from England called Spinal Tap, who have seen better days, and they're starting an American tour. A lot of things aren't going well, and it's hard to call it a spoof, but that's what it is, I guess. But there's so many funny things that are realistic in it that it makes it more than that. There's just a lot of funny stuff. It's just from one end to the other. They got this right. This was written by Christopher Guest, and he plays the lead guitarist of the band. And they all do good English accents. Michael McKean, again, Christopher Guest, Gary Shearer as Derek Smalls. The fate of the constant drummers in Spinal Tap are great and funny, and the situation with the Christopher Guest explains to Rob Reiner about the amplifiers is one of the classic lines in movie comedy, and you'll see what that is when you watch it. And stay tuned through the end too. They do like a music video after the credits, which is funny. Again, this is Spinal Tap, my number 1 movie from 1984, available on rental only. So that's our top 10 list, and that's going to bring us to our director's spotlight, which this week centers on the Coen brothers, which if I had a gun pressed to my head and they said, who's your favorite contemporary director, this would be my answer. These guys do movies like nobody else does movies. You can tell when they make them their way. They don't worry about studio interference or anything. Nobody can seem to tell them how to make their movie because they make them their way. And if you've watched a few of them, you'll know what I mean. They do a lot of different camera work. Their stories are funny. There's always a side story that doesn't even fit in the movie, but when you go to think about it, it really does fit in the movie. For instance, in Fargo, the Oriental fellow that was wanted to get back together with Marge Gunderson. I mean, you wonder what it's doing in the movie, and then you see it, and you say, well, how could that movie have existed without that part in it, even though it didn't have anything to do with the main story? Yeah. So anyway, some of they started out with Blood Simple, which was a film noir murder kind of thing, which really was wonderful. And then Raising Arizona was their breakthrough movie. Again, with Holly Hunter and Nicolas Cage, this movie was funny through the whole way. And the Coen brothers had their stamp on it. They've done a lot of movies. My favorite is Fargo, which I consider a flawless movie. And one of the most quoted movies ever, The Big Lebowski, also. But Fargo, again, I go back to, it was like the story of a botched kidnapping up in Minnesota, and the accents and the things were just so funny. You know, they're from that area, the Coen brothers, so they were able to get that stuff down pat. And that was my favorite. Big Lebowski introduced the Dude, played by Jeff Bridges, which became another movie icon. This movie's good throughout too. Again, multiple viewings of their movies are required because you're going to miss half the stuff the first time. They did a serious movie called No Country for Old Men, which won Best Picture. One of my favorites. Very violent, but good movie. You know, Tommy Lee Jones was wonderful, and Javier Bardem played the villain. Oh brother, we're out there. Where art thou with George Clooney? Another good movie by them. And recently, Burn After Reading, which a lot of critics didn't like. I personally thought Burn After Reading was one of their best movies. George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Frances McDormand. I mean, just so many things in this movie that were quirky and funny, and the dialogue is wonderful. John Malkovich was great in it. And now, naturally, you know, doing as many movies as they've done, there are some that, you know, weren't quite as good, but they all have that mark on them. You know, whether it's Barton Fink or Hell Caesar, those weren't as good as some of their other ones, but they're still distinct in their style. Again, the Coen brothers, one of my favorite directing teams. So that's it for this week. We'll see you next week, hopefully, if we'll have sound then. Until then, have some popcorn on me. Bye, everybody.